What's up, guys? Good morning to you. I wanted to welcome everyone to the webinar. We are going to continue with our theme of sales and how we get more deals in place. I'm pretty pumped up. I'm here in the studio today, and I'm recording not only this, but a few other things. But sales is something that definitely gets me pumped up. I find it just strange and really weird that real estate agents and brokers are never trained on sales. They're just not. You can go to the biggest real estate companies and they think they're training on sales. They're not, though. It's more than just features and benefits. You know, this is what our company does. This is how you can benefit from that. This is a feature of what we do. This is how you can benefit. That's not sales. That's just kind of reading off a menu. You gotta, if I'm selling hamburgers, now listen to this. I think I touched on this last week. If I'm selling hamburgers, I've got to get somebody hungry for the hamburger. If they're hungry, does the hamburger I make them really matter? Probably not. What if they're not that hungry? Does the hamburger I make for them really matter? Yeah, it probably does. In either case, you've got to go up the gradient there. If your client or customer is not hungry for a hamburger, they're probably not going to buy. And it's probably going to be full of challenges when they're not that hungry. This is where the Yelp reviews come in and, those type of things. Now, that has nothing to do with the real estate agent broker business. But what I want you to understand is there's a gradient with what you guys are doing with real estate agents or as real estate agents and brokers when you're selling a house for somebody or representing a buyer and selling that. This is my notes. I've been taking all on this trust and rapport. That's what we're talking about today, trust and rapport. This is part of that gradient. So this is really what sales is really about, is building this trust and rapport. And having this idea of if somebody trusts you, if they have rapport with you, they're probably going to buy from you. Can't guarantee it, but they're probably going to buy. If you have no trust and rapport, it's not happening. So that's the first thing. How do you get that done? The first thing that I would do is I would really focus on these things right here. I would have them kind of help you get up this gradient, help you make your client or customer hungry for what you're selling. In other words, I'm using the analogy of hamburgers. Get them hungry for your hamburger. If again, listen to me, if the person isn't that hungry, does a good hamburger matter? Yeah, it probably matters more, because that's when they're like, yeah, I don't really like this. If a person's starving and you give them any hamburger, it's probably going to be one of the best things they've ever eaten, because you got to get up that gradient. Are you, as a real estate agent and broker, making your clientele hungry? You should write that down. Are you making that? Actually, I'll write it down. Are you making your customers hungry? And you know what I mean by that, right? That is the analogy that I'm using here. But this is going to be real important. This is where you want to implement all this stuff. You want to implement other marketing techniques, right? If you guys don't know what to do with that, come talk to me. Send me an email. I will help you. This is what we do. Why isn't that 3? Hold on. There we go. Boom. I don't know why I don't know why that 3 is not highlighting. Let's do this. There we go. Boom. If you're trustworthy, people decide on your trustworthiness in 1/10 of a second, actually a second or two. Watch this. Princeton researchers found this out by giving one group of university students 100 milliseconds to rate the attractiveness, competence, likability, aggressiveness, and trustworthiness of the actors' faces. Members of another group were able to take as long as they wanted. Their judgments were the same for most of the traits as the folks who had only a tenth of a second. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? Much of that judgment is based on things you can't really change. Now here, watch this. For instance, research suggests that a more feminine, baby-like, and happy faces are perceived to be more trustworthy. What do you think, baby face? What do you think? Okay, maybe not. I get it. Um, but what you can alter to help with that is you can alter your body language and boost others' trust in you. As a Business Insider previously reported, try smiling more, leaning forward more, looking people in the eye, and mimicking their body language. A lot of this starts to get into something called NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, and body language and nonverbal communication and all this stuff. If you are a fiend about studying sales, you'll kind of dig into that. That's it's really cool stuff. You know, the brain is an amazing thing, and putting it in a position where you are going up the gradient with your client or customer and having them hungry for your burgers, or having them a little hungry for your burgers, is a vast difference than when they're not hungry. Do they want to sell a house? They're not. No, they're not hungry. Do they want you to represent them as a buyer's agent? No, they're not hungry. Do you a renter? No representation as a renter? They're not hungry. How do you get them hungry? Well, for instance, one thing you could do with the renters, send them stats on how easy it is for a person in their credit range with their income to buy a house. Most people don't know that. See, that's getting your people hungry, where you're sending them this information via your email, your text, drip campaigns, or just talking with them. And then they're saying something like, really? I didn't think I could ever buy a house. And that happens all the time. That happens all the time. That's where first-time home buyers come in to your repertoire. So really cool. You can alter your body's language to boost others' trust in you. This right here is real important. Whoa. This is the stuff that you can change right here. So looking people in the eye, leaning forward, mimicking their body language. You know, that's called mirroring, by the way, if you have studied that before. That's really cool. That's how you're going to build rapport. I just threw this in for a little laugh here because I want to keep it entertaining. This is, they decided if you're dominant, a University of Pennsylvania study found that men with shaved heads were rated as more dominant than similar men with full heads of hair. Dominant. And that men whose hair was digitally removed were perceived as more dominant, taller, and stronger than their authentic selves. I put this up here to make you laugh a little bit because I'm bald and hopefully you don't see me as dominant. Maybe you do, I don't know. But I put that up there is be careful, because you could go into a sales meeting and if people perceive you as dominant, they may act different during that meeting. And you may not want that. That may be a harder or a hurdle to build rapport with somebody if they perceive you as dominant. So think about some ways that you can mitigate that. Wear a hat, get a toupee. Just kidding. But I think smile more, look people in the eye, be more gentle in your communication, things like that. So just be aware of that. Self-awareness is one of the skills that I think good salespeople have, and having the ability to know their surroundings, know where they are, know what's happening, is going to be real important for you. So there's I don't know, 5 or 6 keys to building rapport. I want to go over this. 5 or 6 keys. You ready? Get a notepad out. I took these notes, and I think you're going to be cool with this. How to build rapport. Number 1, be yourself. Just be yourself. Look, guys, there's no trickery in sales. Let me say that again. Matter of fact, let me stop sharing. There's no trickery in sales. You're not tricking people. I do a lot of things with real estate investment education companies, and there's a few that have sales trainers and things like that. And one particular sales trainer I know, all they train on is trickery. All they train on is trickery. And I'm telling you, there's no trickery. It's servicing the client. That's what is going to get you sales. Now, there's some things that you can do to help you get up the gradient. But as far as these, being a wordsmith and saying crazy things that really don't matter, that you think, you're going to impress upon other people, is nonsense. If you can service a client and get them to the point where they're hungry for your product or service, you're going to be in a really good position. But hear me again, there's no trickery. There's no wordsmith things that you can do in sales. Now, there's some things that you can say differently, but the first and foremost thing is to be yourself. If you're saying words that are not yourself, your authentic self will not come through. And people sense that immediately. They sense it immediately. So number one, be yourself. Before the first day of school, first jobs, camp, and any family get together, Dad always said, just be yourself and everything will be fine. This lesson also applies to generating rapport with prospects and customers. Be genuine, be yourself, and don't try to be anything you're not. Create a new persona or adapt a sales-like tone. Relax, smile, and go in a positive attitude. Good things will follow. As Oscar Wilde said, be yourself. Everyone else is already taken. Pretty cool. So that's it. I think you guys know that. That's not something that is going to be foreign to anybody on this call that is listening to this, for sure. The idea of you having yourself in front of a client or customer, or being able to present yourself in front of a client or customer, is the best possible thing that you can put in place. Why? Because there's no better copy of yourself than you. You're the authentic, you're the original. So let that shine through, be yourself. You're going to be in really good shape. Number two, be friendly. Chilly people get chilly reactions from others. That mirroring thing that I talked about earlier, it works in reverse too. Approach rapport building with the intent to be warm and friendly. Smile, give a firm handshake, make eye contact, and engage. Do so in an authentic way. If you're forcing the friendliness, buyers will notice and your attempts will backfire. Most of us know someone who wanted to be like so hard. He tried so hard, but it didn't work. In trying to be like, he appeared needy and conspicuous. Interesting. You can't force rapport. Let it build naturally. Show interest, but don't act subservient, over-friendly, or too pushy. If you come on too strong, you'll only be seen as inauthentic and turn the other person off. So just remember that. Be yourself. That seems to be a common theme here. You guys are probably well aware of that. Show real interest. It's no surprise to anyone. People are self-focused. This is quite helpful to those of us in this position as, agents, brokers, since you need to learn about your prospects so that you can craft the best solutions. I really feel that way. And this is something that we're going to be talking about a little bit more with spin, which is our selling technique to close people. We're going to go through a big training on this, so you don't have to worry if you don't know much about it. Spin is going to be the thing that is going to make you the best salesperson in your area for sure. And it's going to be the thing that's going to bring you more rewards and closer to your goals with real estate. Buyers want to feel like they have an opportunity to share what they're thinking, including their desires, fears, and problems. Like I said, this helps with spin. More importantly, they want to feel like they're being heard. The more you can show you're listening to them and are genuinely interested, the more likely they're to be relaxed and willing to share. Real important. Show real interest. The next one, find common ground. Find common ground. People like people who are similar to themselves. Like you know, you and I, maybe we're having a cup of coffee together. We love coffee. We love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Yeah, maybe. The more you can uncover shared interests, the greater your ability to build rapport. Maybe you went to the same school, lived in the same city, have children the same age, or enjoy some of the same TV shows, sports interests, or hobbies. Whatever it is, you can uncover a similarity. You'll be able to make a connection. Connecting with people is important. People want to do business with people they are connected to, they are like, they are similar, they are the same. There's books. There's a book, and it's escaping me now. It's about tribalism, and it talks about the selling process during tribalism. I'll send this out to you when I get it. It's slipping my mind right now. But the tribalism aspect of people and how they react. If you're a part of the same tribe, you're going to get things done as opposed to people that are not part of your same tribe. So give tribalism, not in the raw sense, I guess, but just being like somebody or uncovering similar interests and hobbies and sports and family history and things like that. I think you're going to really get a lot out of that. So yeah, you can see I'm doing my here. Let's see. There we go. That's that. That's that. See, I'm cleaning this up as we go along. Uh, Sycophants get you nowhere, but genuine compliments are endearing. And this is give genuine compliments, by the way. If you like the student shoes, or the client's shoes, that should say, John, the clients shoes, the prospect shirt, or impressed by their local sports team, say so. If your prospect had a recent accomplishment, a birthday, anniversary, etc., relay your authentic congratulations. They appreciate it, and this will go a long way towards building rapport. Calibrate the rapport. Now, this is going to be real important. Calibrate the rapport. Now we're getting into the nitty-gritty. New salespeople may not be used to managing their time wisely. They may think, I have 20 minutes for this meeting. I need to use the whole time to get my point across. No time for chit chat. So they divert right in without an icebreaker, and it doesn't go well. Others can spend too much time chatting. I was talking to somebody late last night. There was a chatter, and I said, stop talking. Just stop talking. And the prospect might become antsy to get down to business. Do your best to read the other person and find the right amount of rapport-focused conversation. That's it. You'll know that. You'll get a feel for that. But there are people that just don't talk. And then there's people that talk too much. Maybe Heather says I talk too much. I don't know. Just be aware of that when you're talking to somebody. Like I said on the last night, being on the phone with somebody, I said, stop talking. You're talking way too much. He's a friend of mine, so I get to joke with him like that. But calibrate the rapport. See where you're at. You know, people like to be heard. They like to be listened to. Even more importantly, there's a difference. The next one, read the culture. It's always in your best interest to be yourself, but remember to adjust your approach depending on who the person is. Don't change who you are to fit the culture, but be aware of how the culture works and how it best responds. For example, if they're in a suit and tie place, showing up in your Grateful Dead 95 tour tie-dye shirt won't fly so well. Most of the audiences we have in front of us as agents or brokers typically are casual. So just remember that, match that as it ties into common ground. I got a funny story. I was working with a guy, and he was involved in sales, and he took this read the culture to a different perspective. You know, if he was in front of an Irish guy, he'd act Irish. If he was in front of a Hispanic person, he would go into this Latin dance, and just crazy, and on and on and on. And I think people laughed at that at first. It was kind of funny, and that was probably the only saving grace there. But you don't want to put yourself in a position where, you know, when you're reading the culture and you're trying to be the culture when you're not, because people see right through that. He did it in somewhat of a humorous way. So it was kind of funny, and maybe that helped. But usually you don't want to do that. Be yourself. But again, like it says here, be aware of how the culture works and how it best responds. Really important. So a couple of bonus things here, and then we'll save the next bonus for next week. Number one, there's a ton of books that I've read on sales, and I love to read, and a lot of times I'll read a book and I thought, it was okay book. Other times I'll read a book and I was like, man, that is the best book, and I end up reading it a couple times. I'm actually reading one like that has nothing to do with sales, or maybe it does. It's called A Pirate Looks at 50 by Jimmy Buffett. I've read that book. This is my third time reading that book. I love it. I think it's great. If you want a situation where you're de-stressing, it's a de-stressing book for sure. But, I'm in my 50s, so I wanted to kind of read that book. It's intriguing, and it's my third time reading it. The point is, I've read a lot of sales books, and there's probably 3 or 4 or 5 that I would suggest to you. And one of them is this. I got to clean this up a little bit. Not sure why we have that there. Is this To Sell is Human. That's the name of the book. To Sell is Human. And whenever you put a book title out, you're supposed to italicize it. By Daniel Pink. I learned a lot from this book. As a matter of fact, I learned a lot of things to help me be not only a better salesperson, but to really get people up that gradient and doing things like we're talking about here, building rapport. And please, if you go out and read that book, it's a good book. It's a good book for sales. And I think you'll get a lot out of it. For me, one of the biggest things was chapter 4 on personally touching someone and the gradient. Let me clean that up a little bit. Personally, physically touching someone in a professional manner, obviously, and how that works. A handshake, touching someone on the arm, the shoulder, a hug. You know how like when you know somebody and you kind of hug them, and you do, guys do that tap, they hug and then they tap. There's something about that. Studies have shown, and this is what chapter 4 was about, and To Sell is Human. Studies have shown that just by touching someone, they did a study on a waitress with tips. And if the waitress came up and touched someone on the back and said, "Hi, here's your bill. I hope you had a great day. Can I get you anything else, any coffee or anything?" While she or he is touching the back there, she got bigger tips by doing that. And there's definitely a gradient there. You're not going to hug somebody typically that you're meeting for the first time. And as you go up the arm, the hand, the arm, the shoulder, the back, the hug, there's even more of a gradient that we won't talk about. A kiss, obviously. I feel funny even saying this, making love to somebody, that's the pinnacle of the gradient, right? You don't need to make love to somebody to sell them a piece of real estate or to represent them in a sale. This training is taking a turn for the worse, but you get what my point is. However, physically touching someone in a professional manner, handshake, arm, shoulder, hug, that type of thing goes a long way, and it's a great way to build rapport. They go into it much better than I do, or Daniel Pink does in To Sell is Human. I kind of botched that up, but you get the point. So that's it. That's today's training. Trust and rapport, man. I can't tell you how excited I am to continue with this training with you guys. It really will make the difference. And knowing conditions and objections and the difference with those, and when a buying question comes up, what to do. Doing a trial close question. What is a trial close question? How do you use that effectively? What is closing? What's the difference between closing and selling? Most people continue to sell when they should be closing. And reverse is true. Most people try to close when they're nowhere near the time that they should be closing. So I'm going to help you with that as we get going on here. Today's training was trust and rapport. Take some time, go through the notes. I think you're really going to like that. I'm sorry, by the way, on the calendar, it didn't have this link. So this is, you're probably watching this on a recorded basis instead of live. That's okay. But that will be changed so that you can see these live rather than just in broker blueprint. That's it for my end. Have a great week, everybody. Remember, wealth has nothing to do with money. Success has everything to do with failure, and life is as simple as you want to make it. We'll see you next week on the training, guys. We'll talk soon. Have a great week.